am 20 years master martial arts instructor, helping teach patriots in order to save the Christian nations from a parasitic invasion that has gone across Europe and into America and now is affecting the entire world and is acting as if it is a victim of the reaction of its own devices. So I have a little bit of information to read to you here because it is of vital importance in helping you understand why you should join us in this, in bettering yourself, living out the life that God called you to, and transforming yourself and helping to transform your nation and protect it from this parasitic invasion of immoral and alien tactics being used on us. You're never going to figure out what the problem is until you understand the enemy is within the gates. And once you understand the mission these people serve, you will understand where all this is heading. You will be able to look back in history and see this trend has been repeating over and over. The victim who fails to reveal what they did to cause suffering and the hatred coming from a once good and kindly people. Why does this keep happening? Normal, kindly, and good people do not wake up one morning and suddenly decide to hate or persecute another person or people unless there is some friction, unless this other people may be doing something to create a problem. This is left out of the history books. So the psychological conditioning, the biological altering, and the grooming in the education centers have led the educated mind to the conclusion that this is not a random set of events going on in Christian societies. And it is not something that is advancing us to a better and new age. But this now, what we are facing, is an attack on the moral structure that is destroying our society. We all know it and we all see it. A sickness that represents a parasitic organism united in its mission to destroy its host. An alien force living among us. We have been subject to this alien force for decades. It has invaded nations and consumed them, tearing down the moral and financial structure that built these great nations. A parasite like in a science fiction movie that devours planets, resources, and moves on to the next host. Every great nation eventually has a leader or someone or a group who, like a great detective, discovers this alien parasite that lives among us. The general public does not notice them at first because they look similar and pretend to be one of us, but are not one of us. As the people and the nations become increasingly fed up with the suffering that increases, they still remain unable to see the parasite until the suffering becomes so great that they truly accept that this alien living among us has utterly demoralized humanity through every means possible. But it doesn't happen until people realize the suffering has gotten so great, or the torment, like the last event with the medical crisis that now has turned out to be the creation of great suffering. We must realize that this parasitic organism runs the organization and controls the political and media outlets that made this happen. You must recognize who this parasite is. They have destroyed the biblically based idea of family for everyone but themselves. They have pushed for abortion and the death of your children, but not of theirs. They have used every means at their disposal to eradicate God from your nation. That is absolute fact. A nation that was founded on God, but remains centered on worshiping their God, Mammon. They get you to dismantle and move away from your Christian foundations. In fact, they push it through every means possible. And you can recognize who they worship. Their God, money, Mammon, which is a god or a demon god. They have pushed for you to be moved into megacities away from nature, and they want you to eat bugs. They have begun an extreme push on extermination process, creating toxic foods for you to eat, spraying of the skies, making toxic air to breathe, toxic water full of fluoride and bleach, social media to replace human connections. They have engineered financial crisis, created taxation on monies they have produced out of thin air, endless wars, manufactures, and false flags, and fear-mongering among you from every source of media. They create depression, fear, stress, sickness, followed by drugs to mask the problems and create future sickness. Moral relativism is the new religion to replace your once Christian values, while they demand you respect their religion. Our culture has been forced to move away from all the things that gave us hope, strength, and purpose for living, while this alien parasite feeds off the negative energy. There is no area of media, medicine, judicial, policing, organized crime, political espionage, or psychological warfare, spying on every move that you make. And they are involved in all of them. Masculinity for your Christian nations is under attack, culturally, psychologically, and biologically. This is not new, and we find clear evidence of this having strong roots, starting in the late 1920s and 1930s, where this alien force began to externalize its religious tenets to the world. Now women are being replaced in sports by men as an assault on our culture. Entertainment and politics are being infiltrated by men pretending to be women. The children are no longer safe and are being groomed in schools. To believe gender is a choice. This is a ploy directly from ancient forms of witchcraft, from which this alien force is a master of. I assure you, they have led you to believe that witchcraft is something from a Disney movie. But witchcraft is very real, and they are using every form of it in psychological tactics on you every day. The final goal is the extrication of your families and beliefs from the planet, to leave but a remnant as a slave or servant race for them. You don't believe this because you have not heard the words they have said, the talks they have given, the religious belief systems that they talk amongst themselves that has been discovered on hot mics. You must understand it is their goal to eradicate every one of you, especially Christians. That is the main force of attack. All one must do is discover who this alien force living among us is to begin their great detective work. 1. Is there an organized group of people who have tried this in the past and not succeeded? Is there rumor or possibility they are doing this again? Is there any group of people who have used victim narcissism to claim that those protecting themselves from their attack were actually the attackers, and who have rewritten history to make it seem like those who were protecting themselves were actually the aggressors and the attackers were the victims? Most of you can draw a conclusion to this if you have ever read a true history book stemming from the past 100 years. Most of you, though, have been indoctrinated through your church and through your public imprisoned system called schools to understand a form of history that was a lie. Is there a group who now or historically opposed your religion or moral ways enough to persecute the followers and the believers, who would carry this out to the form of extermination or even death? Ask yourself, is there a group who has the financial means and the hatred towards your religion to do this? Is there an organized group who opposes your moral or religious foundations that has these financial means to influence congressmen, judicial areas, and places that, especially in the media, who could cause an imbalance in people's understanding? Is there an organization group who has gained access and unbalanced representation and influence in your politics, your banking, your medical industries, corporation, lobbying influences, anyone who receives unbalanced amount of foreign aid money for a nation? Is there any group who feels you must change and accept the moral decline of your culture, but uses hate laws to protect themselves from the same scrutiny? Is there any group who has had laws passed to limit your religion and moral voice while increasing theirs? Is there any group who has found its way into your nation's politics while simultaneously holding dual citizenships to a foreign nation, which should be illegal? Is there any group using victim narcissism to protect their aggression and blame you for exposing them, calling it a hate crime? Is there any group that has convinced the masses of your society they are your friend, while simultaneously vehemently opposing and working to destroy your religious foundations? Most, 90% now, of Christians do not believe the organization they have been told to worship, to serve, to pray for their victory of, or is actually the organization working to destroy the church? Is there an alien living among you that tells you they are a superior race, deserving to rule the world, and that you are inferior race that should be eliminated, or to at best be their slaves? That if you do not bless them, you will be cursed by God, while they deserve the right to curse you. The Bible tells us that as Christians, God chose us. The Bible says that his sons and daughters are those he chose and who obey his commandments. So may I ask, if one rejects Jesus, God in the flesh, are they chosen? I ask you, friends, I've just read you something I wrote down this morning, and it has to deal with the state of affairs that Christian nations are in, most especially America. As you know, every day you see this crisis of your borders being open, and you have no idea why they can't be shut. You keep thinking, oh, if I could just get this other president in office, they would shut the borders. The borders are being left open because, especially from Muslim influencing people or people of not your religion flowing into your country, because they use this tactic as an ancient form of destroying Christianity. They call it their sword. So I ask you, is there a group of people who has a religious belief system that they are superior, that they do not have to accept your Christian beliefs, that you need to be eliminated? Historically, for at least a couple thousand years, they have rejected this message. Who has the financial control over your government to do such a thing? Is it China? I think not. A lot of people say that. Is it Russia? Of course not. It is not. Is it Islam? Islam would. They are a great threat. They are the sword that is entered into your country on purpose and in foreign countries. But are they controlling your government? Do congressmen and congresswomen have Iranian or Iraqi or any Syrian flags flying in their offices? No. But they do have a flag flying in their office that shows their true allegiance and who controls them. You have an enemy who pretends to be your friend. And this is the hardest thing for Christians to accept, because when you hear that, you immediately think that you are not blessed. You are not going to be, you're a bad servant of God. And you fail to read the New Testament of the Bible. God gave covenants to people who followed his commands, who obeyed. The covenant was that if you do these certain things, be kind to strangers, love people, open yourselves up to helping, be a good servant to others, that you would be following the covenant, just like when Jesus came. So the old covenant was for the peoples to be kindly and good and show the love of God to others and to eliminate these foreign demonic gods from the lands. The same follows into the New Testament to do the same to others as the Old Testament. However, what you find is, instead, you find a group of people claiming themselves to be superior race, superior intellect, and a superior choice of God. That's fine. People can believe what they want. Our problem is the Christian nation, the Christian believes this, eliminating the idea that it says that there is no difference between any peoples. Between one group or another, there's no difference. There is only who God has chosen, and those who follow his commandments and carry out his beliefs. The Christian church is in danger because this elitist idea set, this form of ideology where one can be born genetically, even though the Bible says, do not get caught up in endless genealogies. And there is no difference. There is only circumcision, importance of the soul or the spirit, not of the flesh. This is not what gets you into heaven. When you have an entire Christian nation serving against Christ, anyone working against Christ, rejecting Jesus, and then you have a brainwashing effect taking place where Christian nations are now serving and praying for against Christ. We are in a state, a magnificent problem. And we have lost, and over the past 70 years, take a look what has happened to Christian nations in the past 70 years. Have they been blessed? Have they increased in their moral Christian outreach? Have they become greater, or are they becoming more accursed? Are things becoming more expensive? Is living harder? Is the morality and the fear and the anxiety getting more and more? That is not the sign of a blessed nation. Is a nation that does not serve the God of the Bible any longer. They talk about it as if they did, but they follow man-made rules. They are a country in and of themselves so long as they don't interject themselves into our nation. But that no longer is the case. Our nation is now more influenced and growing increasingly more influenced by a foreign nation. And it is up to us to reestablish as Christians, as God's chosen people, as those who follow him, obey him, and listen to him, and have accepted him, because no one is going to do it. There is no president who is coming to save you. There is no election that you're going to vote and get anything done, because all of these have now fallen subservient to and against Christ's system. They are all controlled by it. Just as Jesus sent out disciples, it takes people to reach more people. Because as we know, the devil does not want this message to get out there. So, for those of you who are called, who know what's happening, who understand what's going on in the world, and want to reestablish this Christian nation with laws under a Christian nation, who want to prosper financially, prosper in their health, get strong, live out a good life, not poisoned by the food they eat, not controlled by the media or a corrupt policing force, you're going to have to take back your country through media sources, through understanding, growing in your wealth, growing in your strength health-wise, learning how to educate and coach other people to grow and do more, and understand that your church is under control of the scribes and Pharisees right now. So if you would like to join us in the Master's Inner Circle, it is a coaching program. It is an instructional course. It is like visiting King Solomon. When the kings would come to visit King Solomon, they would be educated on how to run their kingdom. And these people knew his intelligence came from God, and the wisdom is all godly based. And this is the Master's Inner Circle, is based all on biblical foundations. And within this, you can learn how to improve your life biblically. Things they're not teaching you in church, strategies, how to build a business, how to go online and start talking and teaching people, and then directing them back to a place where they can donate and get informational stuff or join your group to learn how to spread this message and take back America, because it's not going to happen under these other circumstances. And it's going to take a tribe of people, a Christian group of people, to awaken the masses. And it can't happen openly in some places because they censor these things. So we're going to teach you how to create a private group, do little seminars, even charge for some of them to help finance your ministries, your coaching programs, and reach out to the world and make a real difference. Because until you change things around, until we all get this changed back around, and until we get against Christ out of our political systems and against Christ out of our churches and do things biblically, the way the disciples and the apostles did, your country is going to continue to be overtaken by those who feel that you are lesser human. In fact, they feel you deserve to be eliminated because, one, you're not genetically superior as they are, and two, you serve a false god. This is the belief system. So you must get your control of your country back and realize who's taking it from you, because there's not any facet of your government, corporation, medical, your health care, food you eat, everything is being destroyed, poisoned, done in a way to extract as much money from you as possible and make you as sick and weak and mentally destroyed, to break up your family. Everything you can think of is being orchestrated as a weapon against you. So if you're stuck around this long, that means you're serious about it. And it's time to make a decision in a coaching program, be it health, be it educational, be it a ministry of some sort, whatever it might be you choose to go into. God has called you to do this, and let's do it the right way. Let's make a big difference. Let's organize ourselves. Then check out the information below, and then you can give us a call and let us know if you'd like to join. And you might get in touch with me, and I'll be glad to talk to you and see if you qualify for joining up and making a real difference, because we see the way the world's going, and I don't want our children growing up in this world subservient to a very evil, maniacal, destructive force. That's Dan Collier, Christian Life Network, Sons of Light, for the Master's Inner Circle. See you soon.